everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are doing something absolutely crucial. We're running what I like to call the ultimate site health check. But we're not just looking at how your website performs for everyday human users. No, we are looking ahead to the new wave of AI agents that are literally already out there browsing the web. So, if you want your site to perform at its absolute peak, you've got to understand both. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, we'll decode core web vitals. Then, look at the big three metrics. After that, how to actually fix your vitals. Next, we'll shift to the agentic browsing era. And finally, optimizing for those AI agents.
Section 1. Decoding Core Web Vitals, the baseline health check. Now think of these as the literal, actual vitals Google uses to measure if your site is healthy. They're basically page experience signals that tell search engines, hey, this page feels fast and stable to a real person. And in the hyper-competitive world of search rankings, these vitals, they're a massive tiebreaker. If you and a competitor have equally amazing content, the site with the better vitals is going to take the win, for sure.
Now, you might be wondering about those scores, so let's clear up a huge misconception right out of the gate. You might pull up a beautifully perfect 95 in your Lighthouse test and think, awesome, I'm good to go. But actually, scratch that, because that's just lab data. It's a simulated test on a single device and a single connection. A 95 lab score definitely doesn't guarantee top rankings. What Google actually cares about is field data. That's the real user data pulled directly from the Chrome User Experience Report. If your actual visitors are out there on older phones or spotty connections, their real-world experience is what Google uses to make real ranking decisions. Moving on to Section 2, the big three metrics. Diagnosing the patient. So if we're playing doctor for your website today, there are three specific health signals we need to check to diagnose things: loading, stability, and responsiveness. First up on the chart is LCP, or largest contentful paint. Simply put, this measures how long it takes for the biggest visible piece of content on your screen to load up. Usually we're talking about a massive hero image, a giant headline, or big block of text. It's super important because it marks the exact moment the page stops looking totally empty. It's the very first score your users are going to notice. So what's the magic number here? It's 2.5 seconds. Google says anything under 2.5 seconds is good to go, but anything creeping over 4 seconds is firmly in the poor category. If your site is struggling to hit that mark, the usual suspects are almost always massive uncompressed images, a sluggish server response, or those pesky render-blocking scripts that force the browser to just wait around before it can draw anything on the screen. Now, how exactly do we measure pure user frustration? Enter CLS, or Cumulative Layout Shift. This metric tracks how much the page physically jumps around while it's loading. We've all been there, right? You start reading an article and suddenly, bam, the text jumps down because a late-loading ad or image finally popped in. That right there is a layout shift, and it is incredibly annoying. The target for CLS is 0.1. Now, I know 0.1 sounds like an impossibly tiny number, but it perfectly captures the extreme frustration of losing your place or, worse, accidentally tapping the completely wrong button because the page moved. The main way you fix this? Just reserve space for your images and ads ahead of time by explicitly setting the width and height in your HTML. It's that simple. Okay, our third vital sign is INP, or Interaction to Next Paint. Just a quick note, this actually replaced the older FID metric back in March 2024. INP measures how long a specific interaction, like tapping a button or opening a mobile menu, takes to actually produce a visible response. Fair warning, this is widely considered the absolute hardest metric to fix, mostly because it takes some real JavaScript expertise and digging into browser developer tools to diagnose.
Your goal for INP is under 200 milliseconds. To put that into perspective, anything under 200 milliseconds feels absolutely instantaneous to a human. But if your site relies heavily on chunky page builders, or you just have way too much JavaScript running on the main thread, think dozens of tracking and marketing scripts, it is going to completely tank this vital. Let's quickly summarize how these build together. LCP needs to be under 2.5 seconds, has a massive ranking impact, and means focusing on image compression and server speed. CLS needs to be under 0.1, which means locking down image dimensions and using stable fonts. And finally, INP has to stay under 200 milliseconds, demanding we slash that heavy JavaScript. Which brings us to Section 3, how to fix your vitals, the treatment plan. Now that we have our diagnosis, I want to reassure you,
Tools like PageSpeed Insights love to throw around heavy, intimidating jargon like forced reflow or non-composited animations. But honestly, these issues actually have very straightforward, plain English fixes. When you're ready to start your treatment plan, I highly recommend tackling it in this specific, smart order. Step 1. Start with LCP. It gives you the highest practical ranking impact and usually has the most room for improvement. Step 2. Clean up your CLS. These are often super quick afternoon wins. And step 3, tackle INP last, simply because it's the toughest boss and requires the most technical troubleshooting. So let's translate some of that technical jargon right now. Got render blocking requests? Just inline your critical CSS and delay the rest. Trying to stop the dreaded forced reflow where JavaScript just freezes the whole page? Well, a forced reflow really just means you're making the browser recalculate the layout in this endless, stressful loop. Fixing it means batching your work. Read all your layout values first, then write the changes second. It just eases the browser's workload. Finally, hook up a CDN to speed up your server and aggressively delay those third-party scripts.
All right, moving to Section 4, the Agentic Browsing era, the machine experience. This is where we hit a really fascinating pivot. Because as it turns out, a fast, stable page that's easy for people to use is also significantly easier for machines to use. We're literally watching the evolution from human-centric optimization right into machine-centric optimization.
So what does this all mean? Well, you might have noticed a new agentic browsing test popping up in PageSpeed Insights and wondered what on earth it is. Released back on May 7, 2026 with Lighthouse 13.3.0, this is a brand new default category, and it specifically measures how easily an AI agent can read, navigate, and interact with your page. So, the crucial point here is how this is actually graded. It does not give you a traditional 0 to 100 score like you're used to with SEO or performance. Instead, it gives you a fractional readiness score, basically a ratio of past checks. Since the standards for this new agentic web are still actively taking shape, Google uses deterministic checks to give you a pass-fail ratio, rather than stamping a rigid final grade on your site. And to put your mind at ease, I want to read this quote directly from the source material. Agentic browsing is experimental, so do not panic. You will not be penalized in search rankings just for missing the newer AI features. So, deep breath. This is really just about gathering data and getting a head start on excellent site hygiene. It's not about dodging some immediate SEO penalty. Section 5. Optimizing for AI agents, future-proofing your site. The absolutely great news here is that future-proofing your site for these AI agents right now overlaps perfectly with the human treatments we literally just talked about. The exact same habits that make a page snappy and accessible for me and you make it perfectly readable for an AI. If you want to get ahead of the curve, here's the specific checklist AI agents are hunting for. First, a rock-solid accessibility tree with proper ARIA labels. Second, that low CLS we keep mentioning for a totally stable layout. Third, they want to see a simple llms.txt file sitting at the root of your domain. And lastly, a valid sitemap in your robots.txt and rich schema.org structured data. You might also spot an experimental web MCP check in there, but since that requires Chrome 150 or later, most sites can safely ignore it for now. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why human metrics matter so much to machines. Think about layout shift. It actually matters way more for AI. Why? Because agents click fast. They pick an element and execute instantly. Since they move at lightning speed compared to us, a jumping layout, that CLS metric we talked about, causes them to misclick entirely. If your page shifts, the machine just outright fails. Ultimately, it all comes down to balance. Keep in mind that core web vitals are a tiebreaker signal. Yes, having amazing, relevant content and strong backlinks, those are still king. They matter most. But poor vitals act like roadblocks. If your vitals are failing, they will literally prevent you from claiming those top search results that your great content actually deserves. So I'm going to leave you with this one final provocative question to chew on. Is your website actually ready for the machines? Or is it still struggling just to serve the humans? I highly urge you to open up Google Search Console and start your diagnostic check today. Clear those roadblocks, master your site's health, and you're going to be perfectly positioned for both everyday visitors and this wild new era of AI agents. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy optimizing!